I know what you're probably thinking, hey, another SSL reached out to me today and they wanted me to look at XYZ product. That's not the case this time. I genuinely decided to try it, and we're going to talk about why in the video. A brief reminder, let everybody know in the comments your experience with SSL Complete, if you've tried it, what you think of it, etc. Just leave it in the comments. And while you're at it, hit the like button because it leads to more videos from yours truly. Subscribe because I'm a cool guy. And to show the channel some support, go to thestevekinney.com where you can find my latest presets and schedule one-on-one time with me to help with your productions. Now, for those of you who don't know what SSL Complete is, if you've been living under a rock, I feel like they advertise it everywhere, Instagram, you name it. SSL Complete, like many other companies, is a new subscription-based bundle. It only costs $15 a month, and they give you, again, everything, all their compressor plugins, all of their latest and greatest plugins they came out with, like the SSL 4KB, and then anything they add going forward. So it's just like the lot of all the other subscriptions out there. Now, for all my subscribers, you know that I love my UAD plugins. I have pretty much every plugin under the sun, so why would I need to try something different or even want to? So I was working on a track with my buddy Alex Jeffrey. The song is sounding great. It's gonna come out in June, but we're gonna get an early look at it here when we kind of deep dive some of these plugins. But every now and then, when I'm mixing a song, I run into a situation where my standard tool that I reach for doesn't quite work with the material that I'm editing or mixing on. Now, normally the first thing I do in that situation is try to go out of the box into a piece of hardware. But as you probably know yourself, in Luna, going out of the box kind of has its own set of problems, and I definitely can't be doing that for any client work. So I had to find an in-the-box solution. In this particular case, it was actually the Deesser. The Sonic's Deesser just wasn't working with his vocal, and so I just thought to myself, well, SSL has a new tool, their new Deesser tool, and I thought I'd give it a go. So that's kind of how I fell into this rabbit hole, and towards the end of the mix, I just thought to myself, hey, this would be really cool. I think people on the channel might get a kick out of seeing my thoughts, and they might find it useful as well. So that's how this video even came about. So after toying around with the mix, playing around with the plugins, here's what happened. So the first things first, why don't we just play the track and let you guys have an idea of what's going on. We're coming basically right out of the intro, and we'll go until the end of the tag in the turnaround.
You lost someone that would never give up on you. Every problem I would see it through. Wish I could say the same for you, 'cause when it came down to it, you held love the loosest. Yeah, we all got bruises. I'm sick of excuses. Ain't it just like you to give up on love when things get tough? Did you shake up my heart enough, or should I give it back to you? 'Cause you promised forever, but couldn't weather the weather. Just when the love's getting better, you go and do what you always do. You give up on us. Yeah, you give up on us. Deep down, I'm a fire.
Sweet. All right. All right, so let's check out what we've done with the SSL plugs. Really, there's not a whole lot, but I just thought the quality of what happened with the plugins versus the quantity. It's not like I used a bunch of them in the mix. So I mentioned at the top of the video, the Deesser plugin. So let's talk about that real quick. So the Deesser itself, you know, it's got a bunch of features that are pretty standard, right? You can select the bands of where the Deesser is going to look and compress. You can set the threshold, you can set the amount of reduction, and obviously it's going to do a whole lot there. But what really fixed this vocal and why this plugin became so valuable to me was this little brighten feature. And so let's just take a listen to just the vocal.
You lost someone that would never give up on you. Every problem I would see it through. Wish I could say the same for you, 'cause when it came down to it, you held love the loosest. Yeah, we all got bruises. I'm sick of excuses. Ain't it just like you to give up on love when things get tough?
Yeah, so one of the things that it did really well is that actually, well, one of the problems that I ran into when I was working with the Sonics de-esser is that I wanted to get some of that top end air. I really wanted to push the presence. And obviously when I would do that, it'd sound brittle or it'd sound ear piercing. And anytime I tried to compensate, I just couldn't really get it there. So this is what happens when you play around with the Brighton setting.
You lost someone that would never give up on you. Every problem I would see it through. Wish I could say the same for you. 'Cause when it came down to it, you held love the loosest.
I mean, obviously you're taking it way too far, but you can see what it's doing is it's adding a nice compression or high end or whatever you want to call it. It's doing something to that high end in combination of reducing the S's at the same time. So the process that it's doing is really good. And again, no matter what I did with the traditional method that I would do of using like a fab filter to kind of carve out the S and then compress and then maybe DS and then compress again, it wasn't quite working. And then if you know, it's got the different types of de-essing as well. I mean, you can get really, really intense with this.
You lost someone that would never give up on you. Every problem I would see it through. Wish I could say the same for you.
So you can see it gets quite too much there, but yeah, I felt like somewhere right around here was really nice, and I thought that it did a really nice job on this vocal. The next thing that I would want to talk about is some of the effects. Now, on his vocal in the verses, I really wanted something that kind of felt like a room, and it just kind of gave a little bit of life. And so I tried their reverb plugin, and I didn't like it, so I ended up falling and landing on the RMX16 plugin by UAD, and I really liked that. And then what I did is I augmented it with this native echo, and this is a really great plugin. I mean, it's got a de-esser built in so that your repeats aren't getting ridiculous in the S's, which would get in the way of the mix, right? So you don't want to do that. And it's got like a little width feature if you want it wider or smaller, more wow. I mean, all standard stuff there, but I just thought it was a really nicely easy, simple to use, fast results plugin. So I really liked this. So let's take a listen to what it does.
You lost someone that would never give up on you. Every problem I would see it through. Wish I could say the same for you. 'Cause when it came down to it, you held love the loosest. Yeah, we all got bruises. I'm sick of excuses.
Yeah, real cool. Now when you combine that with the verb from the, well, actually, let's listen to just that verb from the RMX as well.
You lost someone that would never give up on you. Every problem I would see it through. Wish I could say the same for you. 'Cause when it came down to it.
Yeah, cool. It's real artifacty. It's a short verb. It's almost like a delay kind of a thing, like very slapbackish. But when you combine the two, it sounds really nice.
You lost someone that would never give up on you. Every problem I would see it through. Wish I could say the same for you. 'Cause when it came down to it, you held love the loosest. Yeah, we all got bruises.
All right, now let's listen to it in context and take it in, take it out, and see how that translates.
You lost someone that would never give up on you. Every problem I would see it through. Wish I could say the same for you. 'Cause when it came down to it, you held love the loosest. Yeah, we all got bruises. I'm sick of excuses.
Yeah, cool. So again, it just kind of added a little bit of life, a little bit of dimension, and it was great. It was really fast to do. I didn't really fool around with it a whole lot. And I liked that it had a width feature. That was one thing that I found useful in it versus like the Galaxy Tape Echo or something. So it was just useful in this scenario. I really liked it. I tried using the Galaxy Tape Echo initially. It just was not wide. Obviously it's a mono delay. I tried getting some results with this. I usually go to this if I just want something clean and get some width. And then I tried the Korg. I love the Korg, I use it all the time, but again, it just wasn't right in this scenario. So that's why I kind of landed on the native Echo. Next in the chorus, I really wanted some space. And again, immediately I couldn't get what I wanted from my standard stuff, so I thought, let's try the X delay. And so what I'm doing with the X delay is a few things. I'm automating into a few different spots. So right at the beginning of this, you'll hear a real big, spacious kind of thing, and that is this guy, I believe. It's got a lot of feedback, a lot of stuff, but let's just listen to it.
Sick of excuses. Ain't it just like you to give up on love when things get tough?
So you can see that it like falls out on its own. This is what it sounds like. Just really gives that big, huge kind of sound right at the beginning of that. And then you augment it with this short kind of slappy thing throughout the whole thing to give that room sound, but in a different flavor.
Excuses. Ain't it just like you to give up on love when things get tough? Did you shake up my heart enough? Or should I give it back to you? 'Cause you promised forever.
Now that wasn't enough in the big parts of those words, so I augmented it again and added this delay, which sounds like a lot on its own. You know, it really sounds very wet on its own, but then when you throw it in context of the mix, it sits really nice.
Sick of excuses. Ain't it just like you to give up on love when things get tough? Did you shake up my heart enough? Or should I give it back to you? 'Cause you promised forever, but couldn't weather the weather. Just when the love's getting better, you go and do what you always do. You give up on us.
Yeah, real cool. Again, I just use this real long delay to kind of emphasize certain words, and you can hear it coming into the second verse as well. Obviously, it's kind of like a digital delay, but it's got saturation, DS, high pass, low pass, width, all the stuff that you'd really want. And then of course it's a digital sounding delay. So it's really well done. Now I'll admit I had a really good reason to try out the 30-day subscription, but at the stage of the mix that I was in, I didn't really have a whole lot of reason to veer too far outside of just that. However, there was one other spot that I used, one of the plugins, which was the limit. It does a really cool thing. They've got some algorithms here called Glue. There's a few others. So let's listen to this mix again, and then we'll kind of go through each iteration of the algorithm.
Sick of excuses. Ain't it just like you to give up on love when things get tough? Did you shake up my heart enough? Or should I give it back to you? 'Cause you promised forever, but couldn't weather the weather. Just when the love's getting better, you go and do what you always do. You give up on us. Yeah, you give up.
It does a great job. I think it's really cool. I mean, super simple to use, just like most limiters. You've got gain threshold, you got a ceiling, channel linking, whatnot. It gives you good readouts. It's really simple, but I really liked the glue sound for this particular instance, and I thought the other ones did a great job. I'd probably use them on something else, but the glue just felt more natural to me for the song, so that's kind of what I was doing there. But one thing I really liked was this listen IO difference. Let's take a listen to what that sounds like. That's what it's kind of doing to the signal. That's the difference between, I believe that's the difference between the limiting and not limiting. So it's showing you what it's actually doing to the signal. So I thought that was kind of neat. Of course, it does a great job on other stuff too. I did use it on the snare track, and basically the live snare. So you can hear a lot of bleed from the hi-hat and cymbals and whatnot. I just did the phase trick, right? You limit out all the like snare cracks and hits as hard as you can with heavy limiting, and then you flip the phase. So when I do this, you can really hear that the hi-hat disappears quite a bit. So that's all I was really doing there. Of course, I'm augmenting the drums anyway with some samples. So that's kind of the drum sound in a nutshell. Yeah, anyways, I thought that was pretty helpful. Now, I've used the SSL drum strip in the past, and I really like the drum strip, particularly on kick drums. You can add a lot of oomph, a lot of power to the kick drum. So let's listen to the kick in and see what we can do if I pull up the drum strip. It's got this low frequency enhancer. I mean, you can get absolutely ridiculous with it if you wanted to. Same thing with the high frequency enhancer. So, I mean, if you're working with live mics, this plugin becomes incredibly valuable for that kind of a thing. Got a transient shaper if you want more punch. Works really well. I find it really saves my butt when I need to, when I need to fix something. So it's a great tool. By this point, I had already kind of dialed in the G-Bus from UAD, so I didn't really try the G-Bus from SSL. I probably should have. All right, let's take a listen. So it's immediately way hotter, so the threshold needs to come way up.
Deep down, I'm a fighter. And I fought like hell for you. Took every shot from the gun you drew, and used my love to dress the wounds. Now it's too little too late. You gotta lay in the bed you made. I'm still hoping that things change, but loving you is a losing game. Ain't it just like you to give up on love when things get tough? Did you shake up my heart?
Yeah, I mean, does a great job. I think really this is a hard comparison to make because this is dialed in, and I dialed this in before any limiting was on it, so I'm kind of fighting that. But yeah, I mean, I think it does a thing. It sounds good. If you didn't have the UAD version, this would be a great version to have, that's for sure. I really like the additional attack time option. I like the additional ratio options. That's awesome. Wish that the high pass could go a little bit higher. I'll admit I don't really go all the way up to 500 hertz on this one, but it's nice to have the extra ability. So anyway, that's really cool. We can't do this video without trying to talk about the 4KB, right? And I definitely tried this, I was just curious, so let's try 4KB. The GUI is obviously really nice, but the one thing that I immediately noticed that I loved was how the preamp automatically compensates your input and your output gain. Let's be honest, in the post-production world, if we're trying to gain something up, we're not trying to preamplify, we're just trying to get the color of the preamp. So let's fool around with that and show you what it does. That's cool. That's really cool. So, I mean, you can see I crank it all the way up. The apparent volume doesn't really change. It just gets way more saturated. It's exactly what you want. It's got other features like width.
Things change, but loving you is a losing game. Ain't it just like you to give up on love when things get tough? Did you shake up my heart enough? Or should I give it back to you? 'Cause you promised forever, but couldn't weather the...
Yeah, so obviously you can take every one of these things way too far. You know, the compressor works real nice. Obviously it's going to work well with the UC1 and then the UF8 if you want to do the plugin control thing. That's cool. What else? Let's take a look at the list of their plugins here. And I'll just kind of run through the list of what I've found useful. So Fusion, high frequency compressor. I didn't touch this, so I can't really comment on it. Stereo image. I definitely would use this, but it's no different than a lot of other, or at least it's no different in my mind than a lot of other width tools. You know, you kind of use it real sparingly. Fusion transformer. I think this is cool, but you know, I probably wouldn't use this a whole lot, just being honest. Fusion vintage drive. I could see this being useful for sure. It's just drive, so it's kind of cool. It's always handy to have. Violet EQ. This is supposed to be modeled after their Violet EQ. I would not use this personally because it just kind of seems silly. It's just some curves, you know? So I'd probably just throw up Fab Filter or something. Or their other EQ plugin. Now I thought this was really cool, XEQ2. By the time I got this trial, you know, I had already done a lot of the Fab Filter stuff, so I see this as kind of being like a Fab Filter kind of equivalent. But what's really cool is obviously, you know, you add a point, but you can change certain parameters around it, like the type of EQ, right? So you can go from classic asymmetrical, proportional, proportional 2, and this is kind of giving you the freedom to create your own EQ that's based in some historical elements, like the 550 series from API, right, which would have a type of proportional Q. So I think it's really cool. It's cool that they give you that option. And then, of course, your standard tools of boost, cut, add points, go hog wild with it. It's a cool plugin for sure. Then they have some other tools like native X phase. I didn't really fall into this, but I could see how this would be very useful if you're having phase issues. There's not a whole lot of tools inside of Luna to deal with phase outside of just delay and then flipping or inverting your phase, right? So of course we talked about the X echoes, the X delay. I talked about how flex verb I didn't really like a whole lot. Drum strip I liked. The channel strips are cool. Bus compressor is cool. Listen mic is cool. So there's definitely quite a bit of really good stuff here. And then when they come out with something new and hip like the Blitzer, this is just super cool. Let's listen to this real quick.
Bed you made, I'm still hoping that things change, but loving you is a losing game. Ain't it just like you to give up on love?
I mean, it's just downright nasty, and it's so fast to get there in a fun way. So great job, SSL, good stuff. Keep more of that kind of thing coming. Keep developing creative new stuff. I like it a lot. Now look guys, if you have more questions on the SSL Complete bundle and I didn't cover the topic in this video, just leave a comment below. I'd be more than happy to do my best to answer your question in the comment section. And be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all things UAD and Luna. And to support the channel further, go to thestevekinney.com. You can find my latest preset packs, as well as book time directly with me through Calendly. So look, I've said it a million times on the channel. I love what SSL is doing with the UF8, the UC1, their new plugins, They're coming out with something all the time. I really like the innovation, and I love the history of SSL and their consoles. And just like all subscription platforms, the more they develop, the better value it's gonna get over time. The better value it's gonna be over time. And as it stands, it's a pretty complete offering. You've got Deesser tools, you've got EQ, you've got limiting, compression, and of course, not all of the plugins that I have in there are gonna be home runs. Some of them are almost kind of gimmicky, but the ones that are good are fantastic. Now, my philosophy on plugins has really morphed over time into just having no emotion around them. I think they're just tools, and just like you wouldn't use a wrench for every job, you're not gonna use the one plugin for every job. You might want to, and you might try to reach for it all the time, but you know, it's not always gonna be the tool that you need. So it's good to have multiple types of de-essers. It's good to have multiple types of limiters. And that's why when you walk into a pro studio, they have walls of rack gear, and they might not call for one piece every time for the same source on everything. It's just because they react differently to the different program material. So for me, I'm definitely going to be picking up some of these tools like the de-esser, the limiter, and when the time's wrong, I'm just going to keep it in my back pocket. My final thought on this is that I really hope they get rid of the paywall. You know, the subscription thing's cool. I really like that everyone's kind of giving that option for people. Not everybody can afford to just drop $5 grand on licenses. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense to do that, but some people really prefer to just outright buy something, and they've kind of taken their 4KB plugin and hit it behind the paywall. You either have to buy the UC1 or you just pay for the subscription. And it'd be really great to just buy that if that's all you want. But anyway, I digress. That's enough of my ranting about the SSL Complete bundle. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching so much. Now get busy creating. Cheers, guys. We'll see you on the next video.